Stay tuned. Hi, good morning, everyone. This morning we have Tiara Harris. Thank you so much for joining, Tiara.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
And right now you're in Japan, right?
Yes, I live in Japan near Tokyo.
I was so impressed with your channel that even when you weren't living in Japan, you were still trying to raise your kids with Japanese at home. And you've got so many great tips. We're going to dive right in there and have lots of great conversation. Just shout out to anybody watching right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us. If you write your comment and question below, we'll be able to respond to you in real time. Yay. All right. Tiara, could you just give me a little bit of background about yourself before we start?
Yeah, so I'm from Georgia in America, and for the most part, I grew up just speaking English only, and I married a military, military man, a soldier. So we traveled the world, and we ended up getting stationed or moving to Okinawa, Japan. And from there, I had my first child, and sorry, I had my first child, and my baby actually fell in love with Japanese culture. Like, he just was taken in by it, and he would just get so much happier when he heard Japanese music or talked to Japanese people. And I'm like, what? I thought it was a little strange. I'm like, okay, well, we'll just see what happens, because I'm just kind of like a go with the flow type of person. And he started speaking Japanese before me, the baby, because I took him around Japanese people often. And so we shortly after, when he was 1, we moved back to America. And so he grew up in Texas for a couple of years, and I had my second child. Um, and I said, I don't want to be the reason why he loses this gift that he just naturally got. Like, he absorbed Japanese like a first language. So I cracked open a book and started learning.
That's great. And I found you from talking to Adam Beck of Bilingual
Oh,
Monkeys
yes.
because you guys were collaborating on some live streaming talks about raising bilingual, multilingual kids. And I was so excited to talk to you because I raised 2 kids bilingually in Japan. And I think your perspective, trying to do it when you're outside of Japan and then doing it on base, which is kind of like you're kind of surrounded by English as well, right?
I
So at
live, yeah, I tell people I live in America, in Japan. You really do have to make an effort to leave America because on a military base overseas, we have everything we need. In this fenced off area, it's just like an American military base. We have schools, we have supermarkets, we have clothing stores, furniture stores, everything. So a lot of people don't leave the base, or they only leave the base to go to another base. So you really do have to make the effort to want to go into that into the culture. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that has its own challenges, right? Like it's more comfortable because you can get things you're familiar with, you're surrounded by things that you like, products and services. But then again, when you're in a new country and trying to learn the language, trying to immerse yourself, it's a little bit more challenging, right?
Yes, yes. If we lived like in Japan, it would be a different ballpark, I think. But we do have the cushiness of home, definitely. But my son actually gets way into his Japanese and speaks a lot of English. I meant a lot of English, a lot of Japanese, and his English will start going down. So it's kind of nice that we have this best of both worlds situation going on here, because then I know, like, okay, maybe we need to hang out on base tomorrow and find some American kids or something to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mentioned, well, we were talking about this with Adam as well, is a lot of families in Japan, even international families or Japanese families, when they think about adding another language for kids, one of the big concerns is they can't take it yet because they don't know their mother tongue. And one of the
Mm,
things Adam, of course, always says and inspires me as well is they're sponges, man. They can take as much as you throw at them.
as you're willing to do.
They're
Yes.
just have more access to brain power than us as adults. And what you're doing with your kids, making it fun, making it real. You've got so much great advice. So I think you're a great example of how you can do it so positively in such a fun way, and you don't have to worry about losing your native language. It's all adding, not taking away, right?
Exactly. I just approached it as like your kids, they don't know your native language, but I think people are looking at it the wrong way. And I apologize for any background noise. Maintenance just showed up out of all the times. There's a wasp nest outside of our house. I think I posted on Instagram yesterday the picture of it. It's so beautiful, but it's so huge and too close. So they
Yeah.
picked today, of course, to show up and ask about it.
Never mind. You're
Okay,
fine.
so
This is live stream
they'll be gone
reality.
really
Yeah.
shortly. But yeah, I think that you don't know your native language, and I agree with that. And I hate when people use it as a defense against why they shouldn't learn a second language, because I feel like you should use it as a reason why you can learn a second language. So my kid, for instance, oh, this is a good one. My daughter, sometimes we call her mama. Like it's a term of endearment that we use, like, oh, hey, fat mama, come here, and things like this, or hey, little mama, or things like this. But she knows that she's not a mom. Like that's not, we're not using it in that way, right? So if a child can learn the difference between I'm mom, mother, um, Tiara, my actual name, she doesn't call me that, but my husband calls me, just all the information, intonations that go into that word, and still respond to it as a term of endearment or nickname. Why can't she also learn otosan, okasan, and learn it in Japanese and not be confused? So I looked at it like that, and I'm like, you're right. She can handle the fact that the remote control has 5 different names in English. I think she can pick up 2 more nicknames for it in another language. Yeah. So I've learned so much watching them, and they keep me going because I'm just amazed every day at how they pick it up. I'm studying a grammar, and I was spending all week trying to wrap my mind around this grammar, and I would just start saying it to them. And the next day, my son's like, oh, he just uses it flawlessly. And I'm like, I worked all week for this. So I'm so jealous of their minds. But again, we're more patient with children than we are with ourselves and adult learners. With a child, when you pick a topic like animals, we spend a whole 3 years of their life pointing to a dog from 0 to 3. You're like, this is a dog. Do you see the dog? Roof, roof. You see it? And like for 3 years, we would never do that for ourselves when we're learning a language as an adult. We're like, okay, I should know that is a dog. I just read it yesterday. Why am I forgetting it? And we're really hard on ourselves. So I think that's the big difference between learning as a child and learning as an adult. So I took language learning, I took the pressure off of me, and I said, all I need to do is stay one step ahead of my children. So they need to know numbers, shapes, letters right now. So that's what I need to be working on. They need to know, and we just took it one step, one grammar at a time, one step ahead of them. So sometimes
That's awesome.
I'm not
I
including.
have a quote on screen right now that you said. You said, I realized I didn't need to be fluent to help my children learn Japanese. I just needed to stay one step ahead of them. And that's just what you were saying. It's perfect.
Mhm. Yeah, so yeah, that's all. Just stay one step ahead of them. I don't need to be. Oh, I was just going to end with, maybe if we go to the airport and we're in some awkward situation, I may. Well, now I can, but at the time I could not be able to handle it. But like, when am I going to be in the airport? At this moment, I'm just going to be with my toddlers. I'm just going to be with my kids. Speaking of.
That's okay. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Your attitude to learning, I think that the whole advice you give to parents who are monolingual, trying to teach and raise multilingual kids, and
Yeah,
I think you address this a lot on your YouTube channel, is to try to be encouraging and just try it, and then you have some tips like doing labels around the house. Can you explain about that? I love that tip.
yeah, yes. I would love to. One moment.
Go ahead. Yeah, so this is true home parenting. She needs to have a little break. She'll be back soon. So if you haven't already, check out Chocolate Sushi Roll, which is Tiara's YouTube channel. And she's also on Instagram and Facebook, but she's got a great following on YouTube.
Be quiet.
Oh, hello.
This is Olivia.
Hi,
One of my little
Olivia.
bilingual babies.
Are you
She doesn't want to hang out with Daddy.
having a rough time?
You
You're
say
fine.
konnichiwa?
No, it's okay.
So we use labels a lot all over our house. And I feel like we're busy as parents and we don't have the time to sit there in front of a book and go over vocabulary all the time. You need to be able to use it. You need to be able to use it in the moment. So if you put next to the shoes, put on your shoes, take off your shoes. When you're right there standing by the shoes, you can say it to your child. And I mean, look at her. She's 2. She doesn't know mommy is reading. All she knows is that she heard it at the right time when she had a shoe in her hand. And I like to teach them as if they're native. So I don't like to coddle. Does that make sense? So I don't have to say paper. This is paper. Today we're learning. Like, I wouldn't do that to her in English. I would just talk about the paper and she would infer that I'm talking about this because it's in my hand and that's what we're doing. We're writing on the paper. So I try to keep that same energy with Japanese and treat her as if she was a native speaker, and just talk to her about the world around her and in the moment when we're doing it. Yeah.
And
So
I love that you've got lots of things for your kids to do bilingually and multilingual, but also you have labels around the house for you to remember what to say, right?
yes, yes, the labels are definitely for me to remember what to say. Yeah, well, and it'll be like random moments in the house that you have to create. That's like no one's doing anything. The kids are just like, coloring or playing with their toys, and I'm like, oh, I have to wash the dishes. Did they hear me? Yeah, okay, they did. It's just like you have to get all right. If I learn a new phrase that's so random, I just have to say it. I have sometimes pretended to be on the phone, like have like a half a conversation with nobody because I feel like kids learn adult grammar and things from 2 adults talking. And I feel like my kids were missing that before we got to Japan. So I do silly things like I write a script for my husband and I'm like, just say this. When I'm saying this and you say this. And he's like, huh? Like, just go with it. Just go with it. So he'll do it. His Japanese accent is off, but I wrote it in English romanji for him and he'll say it and then I'll say my part. And it's just for the kids to be hearing a kind of dialogue going on because, I feel like that's how kids learn grammar. Just hearing their parents talk all the time, they're learning, they're very nosy little things. So they're like, what mama talking about? Even though they're acting, still playing with their toys, they can hear us. So I try to be mindful of that as well. But now that we're in Japan and they're going to a Japanese school, they're getting some of that from school too.
Yeah, I'll talk about your excursion when you went out to the bakery in a minute, but I love that even when you're at home, you're acting out some of the kids' books that you've been reading together in Japanese. So, for example, The Three Pigs, and so it's great. It's great acting out because kids love to play. So making it part
you got
part
one of
of
our
play.
puppets from. We love
Uh-huh.
and we get a book from them every month. We have a subscription. I have a YouTube video about it. But yeah, when they send a book, people ask me like, how do you plan these lessons and what are you coming up with? We take trips to the library all the time. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Are you speaking English or Japanese today?
Sometimes it's
When
a
you get
real
a book,
mix, right?
just follow the book. So this month we're actually doing body parts inside a human body because this is the book that came in the mail. And so I'm like, all right, let's learn about, how to say veins in Japanese, you know? And then if you go on Pinterest, it also shows like how you breathe, oxygen and things in the book. And then if you go on Pinterest, you can look up these cute little activities about how to use a paper bag and blow it up. If we went to, before COVID, we'd take a field trip. So in this case, maybe see if you can schedule them a doctor's appointment, just a checkup, so that we can use these terms. I do things like that. I'm like, oh, they need a checkup. Which they do, every year. So, you get their physical and then you can use the words and maybe have the doctor show them the stethoscope and they can listen to their heart and just make the book come alive for them, whatever subject it is. If it's about the fire trucks, the firemen happily give tours of the fire station. So set that up while you're in the book. Don't wait a month later. Don't do it now. That's the big thing. And all it does is help you bond with your kids. I feel like learning the language.
Have you found yourself using baby Japanese at all? Because there is a different language for kids, right, that they learn at school. And I first came to Japan. I was living with my dad and his family, and he had young kids. And so I was learning from them because I was learning from their books, like you're talking about with your kids. And then sometimes I would say to my colleagues, oh, I took the shushu popo to work, which is the children's word for train. And they would just laugh and laugh.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely different language. Like for police officers, I might say the baby word for it instead of the adult word for it for sure, all the time.
Yeah.
But I just tell people, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, my adult Japanese is is rusty, or I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
She's pulling snot out of a book.
Oh, yeah.
You're learning about Hanamizu?
Interactive.
Yeah. So she likes it fun. As long as you keep it fun, they love it. But yeah, I'm always using baby language. I've started since they started school. She just started school this year. It's her first year. So I've had a little bit of free time. And I've been determined to start reading the news and learning to speak like an adult. But we do the same thing in English, Like my friend the other day, we were hanging out and she said, do you have to go potty? And I'm like, bruh, the kids are gone. We don't have to say that anymore. So it's kind of that same thing in Japanese where you slip up and you're talking and saying the kid version of the word. I guess in English it would be like, instead of saying a full rhinoceros, we say like rhino. But I guess an adult can use that. But in Japanese, they have more babyish words. Yeah. Like instead of dog, you say won won san. So yeah, I'm not that bad.
When my kids were growing up, they were in Japanese school from an early age because I was working full time. So then for me, it was more about teaching English at home. But it's always trying to find that balance, right? Teaching it your own language, teaching another language. But kids can flip back and forth between languages quite easily, right?
You have to be quiet, Olivia. Be quiet. Yeah. We homeschool. We use the good and the beautiful for English. And so I feel like my Japanese gets a little hindered because I do have to still teach them English because I know like a popular way of teaching another language to your child is one language, one parent, or full immersion for you as an adult. The more time that you're spending on English is more time that you're not doing Japanese. If you're not quiet, you go with daddy? No. So that's more time you're not spending on your target language. But I have to keep the balance in my household. So I just have to manage like anything they know in Japanese, they know in English. So like right now we're learning addition and math in English and in Japanese. And I try to just keep it so balanced. But yeah, his Japanese will start going way up. And then I have to start speaking English at home. Um, which is a risk for me because I need to speak Japanese to them to keep my language going.
Yeah.
And then when their English goes up, then I have to switch back to Japanese.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how you would do it on base, but we always did it like outside the house is in Japanese and inside the house is in English. But on base, you have outside in English as well. So you have a different kind of challenge there, right? And then some of the programs, like now, your situation, my kids are 18 and 14 now. My situation is very different. When they were little kids, we didn't have a lot of things on YouTube like you do now, or you doing things on YouTube. My kids would watch Blue's Clues, and like a lot of American TV shows that we would get sent over on DVD because there just wasn't that access online. So it's a really different world for raising kids right now.
Yes, I love those YouTube videos. Perfect. Go, Dad. No, yeah,
Molly wrote a comment now. She
Daddy
says,
to the rescue. Now we
Nice.
can have an interview. The maintenance people are gone and Daddy can watch the kids. So
Good.
I apologize, everybody. I'm usually way more professional.
No, you're fine. Life happens, especially when you're live streaming. Molly wrote a comment. She says, I like the labeling idea from my Seneca students to use for their parents to learn their language too. She's doing immersion, Native American language teaching, and that's awesome, Molly.
Yes.
Labeling is such a great way for teachers and students, of course.
Right, because I just feel like if you can take one good day and label what you can, and then the rest of the week, it's done for you. Like you can just walk around and be mindful of, paying attention to, I know Adam Beck used the word captive reading. You're going to see it and you're going to remember, I should be using that, and just use it. Say it. Oh, I'm turning the light on. I'm turning the light off. Oh, can you give me the remote control? Write it next to the sofa, like have a piece of paper next to the sofa that says, oh, let's change the channel, and try to remember to just update your labels. Because if you still have cup in there and you already know cup and you're not looking at it anymore, then take that label down and put up a new one that says something more like wash the cup, or let's place the cup on the counter, and make sure you're always just upgrading the labels then. Yeah.
That's awesome. On your video, 5 tips for raising bilingual kids, you give some great advice for monolingual parents like yourself, which I don't know if we can call you monolingual anymore. I think you're working so hard. You can be called bilingual as well, but maybe when you started this is your most popular video so far.
It is.
Can you run us through your 5 tips?
Okay, so reading to your child is so important. We read 2 books in the morning every day and 2 books at night. And I will read Japanese books, and then I'll have the dad read English books to them. But sometimes, as I may have stated before, my husband's military, so they get sent away a lot. So then I will pick up and read English books as well. Side tangent, but I know there's so much about one parent, one language, and will you get them to speak? And I just feel like in my household, we do, mommy is bilingual. And being bilingual means that mommy is capable of speaking 2 languages. You're bilingual, and that's what that means. It doesn't mean that mommy, and I tell him, like, daddy is monolingual. He can only speak English. So we're going to do our best to speak English around daddy. And I just explain that to them, Children can grasp the concept of religion and things like this that's not even in front of them. So I'm like, I just give them the respect that they can grasp the concept that we're going to speak 2 languages. So I don't try to hide the fact that I can speak English. Okay, so I use English. I will read the book if Dad's not there, but 2 books in the morning, 2 books at night. Next, we do. I wish you told me. I would have had the list in front of me. But play. Children don't want to be seated down and just do a lesson all the time. That makes language learning seem so boring. And it's like you want your second language time to be the best time. It's the best part of their day. It's like, hey, we're about to speak Spanish. You know what that means? It's like a party, you know? So if you're tired and you feeling drained, make sure you know, drink your coffee, do whatever you need to do, take a moment in your room, and then come out. And don't take that tired energy into the language learning playtime, because then they will feel it and they will associate that with the language. And they're like, I don't want to speak Spanish because Spanish is boring. I have to sit at this computer, or I have to write. And it's like, no, when it's Japanese time, we get to dance, we get to play with parachute, bubbles. We're going out. Like you saw, the books are interactive, and we're trying to do some activity, some kind of Pinterest activity. I know during Corona, I got crafted out. I was like, if I see another craft, glue and glitter, no. So, but I'm back. We've been able to go outside again, and I'm back to doing activities. I really like on Instagram. I have Mother Could. She shows different activities that you can do DIY at home with your kids, and just make it fun, as fun as you can for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Axel makes a comment now. He says parenting is a full-time job for life.
It is, but it's so tiring when they're little. But I'm noticing as they get older, which you have that age, they're gone so much.
Them and do so much with them, because once they grow up and they're teenagers, they're so independent, and it's really hard to get them to spend time with you because they have their own lives already, right?
Yeah, like even now, my 5-year-old, he's starting extracurricular activities. So after school, he stays after school for soccer or gymnastics. And I'm like, where's my baby? We're supposed to do more, you know, together, our activities and things. So I'm seeing that how it evolves from when your child is a baby. So definitely 0 to 3, take advantage and get as much of the non-school language in as possible. They will pick up the school language quickly. Don't worry about it. And then once they go to school, what we've been doing is when he comes home from school, we'll do a little English time, and then I'll speak to them in Japanese. Because I do notice, even though they go to school, their Japanese improves as much as my Japanese improves. So they still talk like me, if that makes sense. And I've noticed that, and that keeps me pushing to go further than my level. I need to keep pushing. I need to be able to explain things to him, because it's just like in English, the children at school, they sound like their parents. Even though they all hang out every day for 8 hours, they will always still sound like their parents. So I still have to make sure that I'm improving so that he can improve.
Yeah, wonderful. Let's talk about your excursions. Like
Yeah.
a beautiful video you did about taking your kids to the bakery after you introduce reading about donuts and stuff in the book. And then you take them out to the bakery, and then you guys are all talking in Japanese once you're there. It's a great video. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and actually, we'll be doing a lot more excursions now that I found a new bestie. I am. We'll be doing excursions in Japanese and English, and hoping to make the videos so that other people can learn from them as well. But this Saturday, we're going hiking. So I got Japanese books on Yama Aruku, walking up mountains, and I got English books about taking walks. And we've been trying to use this vocabulary throughout the week. So start like on a Sunday, Monday, and you start reading the book. And kids love repetition. So read the book all week. They won't get bored. You'll get bored quicker than they will. So don't worry about that. And then on YouTube, I will find a video about hiking, you know, the fun songs like Pink Fong and Baby Bus. They come in all the languages, and super simple songs. And we will play that. We'll walk around the room and pretend. Then you can do a craft with them. midweek, like Wednesday, cut leaves out of paper or actually go outside and gather. Like, hey, on our walk on Saturday, we'll probably see acorns and this and that. And it's kind of like prepping them for the big event, which is on Saturday with our Japanese friends, which we usually do like a play date. I would like to have a play date once a week and before Corona, of course. And now that we're getting a little safer here in Japan, I've this family that we go to school with, so we've already shared germs, I suppose. We're gonna start having the play dates with them. So that's why on Saturday I'm excited. We finally get to have play dates again. So you building up to this play date, and at the play date, you're going to use all these words that you've been reviewing with them all week. And they can see a native speaker using it, and it kind of just concretes it in, like, oh, this was important. All these things my mom was telling me all week. Yeah, and they feel really good that they know and can understand, and you feel good because you properly prepared them for this meeting. And then at the play date, if it's not so specific as hiking, if it's just at your house, I'll have an activity like from Pinterest that is about the book that we've been reading. So let's go back to like the Three Little Pigs or the bakery. Let's do the bakery. That play date that we did after that, which I guess I should add to the videos. I had a Japanese friend come over with her little girl, and I just bought those dollar crescent roll from the grocery store, and I had the kids just I had them put flour on on the paper, but you don't need it. But they put flour down and they rolled it, and we used the baking terms with our friend, and they loved it. And we put it in the oven, and they ate the little crescent rolls, and they were just so excited that they got to do it with their friend, and they used the same language again. So
That's
field
great.
trip and play date.
Yeah.
And activity.
And that's becoming so much harder during coronavirus. But you guys on base, at least, you guys are actually more careful than off base with getting tested, not traveling. So maybe now that restrictions are lifted, it's a little bit easier to have play dates. I'm sure it's still a concern, right?
Yeah, so we're governed under the military because my husband's job. So we couldn't take trains. We can't go outside of our city, and there's a lot of restrictions. We can't eat inside of a restaurant. So we've been super safe during COVID. But we just we're got our area expanded, and so that's why we're gonna just take this little hike this Saturday. And I think that we can now use the trains, but only non-peak hours. So, but I'm not going to get on a train yet this year. I probably won't get on a train this year at all. So we're going to take a car on Saturday.
Yeah, maybe take it. If you've got a family, it's actually easier to get to hiking spots if you drive most times anyway.
Yeah.
So this new collaboration that you're doing, Japanglish.
Japanglish, yeah. Japanese and English.
Yeah, do you want to I've got the pictures up now. Do you want to introduce that a little bit?
Yeah, so my good friend Kaori-san, she is also about 5 years ago started teaching her kids English here in Japan. And it's strange that Japanese people don't speak English, although they speak so much English, Japanglish. They speak Japanglish because if you say like hotel, pink, orange, tea, radio, all these words are English in their language, but they only understand it in katakana. They don't understand it in English pronunciation. So she's been pushing really hard to get her kids to learn English. And we met because she actually set up a program on base. It's called Kids Culture Club. So if you live around our base, join it. And what happens at Kids Culture Club is the Japanese people come and the Americans come, and they'll both introduce their culture. So every month they'll have an event, and they'll do whatever the holiday is. So if it's Valentine's Day, they'll introduce the Japanese way of Valentine's Day and the American way. If it's Cinco de Mayo and the Japanese have a holiday, like this. And that's really nice. And so I met her there, and she's a leader. She was like, "Oh, you're so perfect. Could you, be on the board member with us? And yeah, we love your activities." And so she had me over to her house to do a English lesson with her kids. So she thought, but I don't teach what I say during foreign language time. I'm not going to sit them at the table and make them do things. So I brought my Pinterest inspired activities over, and we read a book about germs, and then we did the activity with the paper towel. If you take a permanent marker and you trace their hand, then take a washable marker. They can draw germs, and when you put it in the soap and water, the washable marker erases, so therefore the germs, and they're left with just the hand. And then the one that's really good is also with water. If you put pepper in it and you take dish soap and touch it, the pepper will disperse like the germs. But if you do it without soap, the pepper will just get on your finger. So they really liked that, and they were talking about germs, and it really started the conversation. And she was like, I've never seen them this excited about English. And so, but I was like, I don't want to, make this a thing. I'm not an English teacher to come to her house every week. So she's like, oh, how can we work together? Because I would like other people to experience. She says, experience you. She cracks me up. She's like, experience Tiara way of learning. And I'm like, I don't think I'm anything special. I'm like, I just play with my kids. She's like, yeah, we like this. So,
but it's like, true. I mean, what she's saying, the way that you're teaching English, the way that you're teaching Japanese is so natural and immersive, and so different from the typical standard classroom style, right? Like, so where did that come from? How did you get motivated to do it in this style from the beginning?
Yeah, I have no idea, to tell you the truth. I'm not a teacher. I've always been a children's person. From when I was little, always around children, things like this. I've taught online before. I don't know. I really like to read. And when I read the book, I don't have any around me, right? It's a second. But if I read the book, I'm just like, how can I make this come alive? And that's what I thought. So I'll put the theme into Pinterest, and see what other moms are doing. And I just think, like, where can we go?
Yeah.
Let's go find some pigs. I don't like to be in the house.
Yeah.
I'm like a stay-at-home mom that's not at home ever.
That's great. You're giving so much benefit to your kids, not just about language, not just the tools of communication, but you're giving them a love of communication and a love of adventure. So I love it so much.
Outside at the mall, another good tip is, if you are in the other culture, don't make them afraid of strangers, so to say. Like, we teach stranger danger, but like, we were playing a word game in Japanese while we were sitting in the mall, and we couldn't think of the word for axe. The answer to the little quiz was axe. And I was like, I don't know that word, because, it's not very common to use with kids. Like, so I'm like, but I'm looking, and we're in the mall filled with Japanese people, and I don't know the word for axe. So I told my son, I'm like, let's go axe somebody, so I'm like, excuse me, we're playing this game. And it showed him, like, he showed mom speaking Japanese in front of him. He, I never want him to feel empowered. Okay, we don't know everything in Japanese, or you don't know everything in English, but if you can read, and if you have a dictionary, or you have somebody around, then you can find the answer. So you need to be able to teach him how to find what he needs.
Yeah.
So that's why learning to read was really important to me, in Japanese. Yeah. He's always reading.
It's fantastic. And I use that same concept when I do workshops for guides, for tour guides, because they can't know everything. Parents can't know everything. So when a visitor asks you a question you don't know, that's a great opportunity to ask a local staff at the restaurant or hotel, because they probably know. And then you act as a bridge in that way between the customer or your child and the knowledgeable local person. And it's okay to say, I don't know. Let's go find out. I mean, how wonderful. And then you're teaching your kids,
I got this way of teaching from, actually, now that you say it, is acknowledging I don't know. So I'm like, he's watching TV, and he's like, Mom, where does honey come from in Japanese, though? And I'm like, babe, I don't know how to explain that concept in Japanese, but we gonna find out. So, how can I help him find out? Well, I can go to the library and look up a book about honey in Japanese. Then I can go to the bee hive, place, and see how they make honey. And then we can, we can have friends over, and we can make tea with honey, and hopefully that Japanese person have them explain about honey again in Japanese. So I think that is exactly actually where it came from. It's just, I actually don't have any answers in Japanese for him. So
Yeah.
I have to find them. I have to.
And then
Yeah.
in this day and age of a lot of fake news and stuff, you're teaching your kids skills of
Wow.
finding out for themselves and
Oh,
not taking someone's word for it all the time, but go and you're be curious. Find
mm,
out information for yourself. What a great
yeah.
skill that we need all over the world with kids right
Right.
now, right?
And with Japanglish, I feel like Kaori-san, she has the same curiosity or acknowledges the curiosity and respects the curiosity of her children as well. If her children ask her questions, she's like me, let's go find out. And when I picked that up, kindred spirit, I was like, okay. I was like, you're just like me, you're ready to go. And
That's
she's like,
awesome.
all right, so, what can we do? How can we work together?
Yeah.
What can we be doing? And I was like, well, I have this YouTube channel, and I explained to her, but I was like, I took the year off because everything happening in the news in America and being stifled in the house with Corona, I just needed to be with my children as much, and try to just get through the days, right? Like everyone else feeling heavy with police brutality, things like this in America. So fast forward now that, I'm feeling I'm getting some air, I'm feeling good again. I said, yeah, if you would like, we can team up on this YouTube thing and kind of bring people this perspective of Japan in English. And hopefully we can help empower some more Japanese moms because they know English, they just don't speak it. They know
Yeah.
written English, and so we can empower them to play with their kids and speak
That's
to their kids
awesome.
from an early age.
It's
Yeah.
it's it's often a hurdle of, like you said, we think of teachers as being experts, know everything, right?
Mhm.
So when you're saying I'm not a teacher, but you are,
Yes.
you're an amazing
I like to
teacher,
stay away from the teacher. I like to say we're
right?
going to learn together.
Yeah, let's just
Right.
let's
You
just
don't
do
have to
it.
teach
Let's
your kid another language because
wonderful.
I think that puts too much weight on the parents. They're like, but I don't know it. How can I teach anything? And you're right, you don't know it. So that's why I say learn together from day zero. I want you and your kid to listen to the alphabet together. And
Yeah.
then it kind of helps me too to see the language from their point of view because if you haven't memorized how to say book yet, how do you expect them to have memorized it yet? And therefore, if you haven't memorized it, you're going to be like, well, what can I be doing to help us memorize this? Well, let's go to a library and look at books and touch books and let's see how can I make this word come more alive so we can start using it more. And then once it falls into the natural part of vocabulary, then we can move on and let's try this and let's move on to this. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey. because
Yeah. That's wonderful. Oh no, I think I might have lost you. Frozen for a bit. Can you hear me? Okay, you're back. Okay, good. You
yeah,
froze just for a second. Yeah, one of your videos is on fake it to make it. Fake it until you make it. And I mean, that's a common theme for me why I started this series. Like I'm not a talk show host. I'm not a journalist, but I wanted to be. For years I've been writing articles, and during coronavirus, this is my way to connect with other people around Japan or doing things connected to Japan and hopefully inspire other people as well as motivate myself.
mm,
And so
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
really inspired by your enthusiasm for communication and also motivating your kids to be curious about Japanese culture, about language, and then also Spanish. You're doing another language too, right?
Yes. So when I was in America, I was researching trying to find like Japanese immersion schools or something for the kids because I did not even imagine we would move to Japan. The military told us probably we would not ever again because we already had our chance, and it's really a popular location that people want. But so I was researching what can I be doing here in America, and I found there's a ton of Chinese immersion schools, and I was reading their website, and one thing that really struck me was they said that from day one, English and Chinese is the kid's first language. And then in I think first or second grade, they said your child will be instructed to pick a second language. And I was like, wait. Like that's not their second language? They're like, no, that's their first languages, and then they will get a second language. And I was
Wow.
like, I would like to embrace, our language learning that way. So Japanese and English is your first language, and you should know everything, reading, writing, listening, speaking in both of those all the way fluent. And then in Spanish, let's have fun and let's just treat it as a second language. It's treated. And, if you don't know everything in Spanish, it's fine, but let's be able to have like a nice conversation with people when we get back to America and be able to like kind of get around if we did go to a Spanish speaking country and things like this. But I figure if we start now, by the time they're 18 and moving out, they'll probably be fluent because you keep adding to it, they're going to get fluent.
That's awesome. I love that. I really like your advice to parents, and not only advice, but you get certain issues that come to you, and you talk it out, and you share your point of view, and I think that's so useful. I really like this one. Would you hire you for your childcare needs? Can you
Yeah.
can you introduce
It's
that?
so
I love
crazy.
that.
But I think, yeah, sometimes I'm all about perspective. Sometimes you think that you have a bigger issue or how you're looking at something, but if you change the perspective, you will, it helps open up your mind to something else. So with this, that's all about perspective. People put so much on their childcare worker. They're like, you need to have activities for my child. You need to make sure they're engaged. They're not in front of TV. You need to be taking them outside, or you need to make sure they're hitting their goal marks when they're in your care. But it's like, did you put those same regulations and expectations on yourself? Because a lot of parents, when they get home, they're like, well, I'm just tired. Let's start relax. We're going to sit on the couch, watch TV. They didn't plan an activity for their kid. They didn't teach them anything new this week. They're just like, I expected that person to do it. And it's like, well, you could be that person. Like, even beyond school, when my husband, he's really big about this. After dinner, he'll just ask my son, like, what are you curious about? What do you want to know about? And he'll say something like, crayons? He's still getting into it. And it's like, all right. So we look up on YouTube, how are crayons made? And it'll spark a conversation. So it's those little moments that add up in their childhood. And now, like you said, it teaches them to explore their curiosity. Don't just, oh, I was worried about crayons, but it's not that important, so I just shunned it away. It's like, oh, it only takes like 5 minutes on YouTube and some talking, and we can know how crayons are made. And but anyway, so yeah, I really think that parents just change their perspective about different things, then it will thicken their relationship with their child. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And last week I was talking to an international school principal who also wrote a book about talking to your global child, and he was talking a lot about that, about your perspective as a parent when you talk to your child and ask them questions and make education about them, not just about what you want to get through as a teacher or a parent, or what you want them to know or learn, what like, make it about them. What are they curious about? And he said something really interesting. He said the greatest lesson you can teach your kid is to help them discover their passion, and what are they
Right.
interested
Yeah.
in, what are they passionate about, so that was so interesting, and I think you're doing so many similar things with your kids.
Yes. Yes. It's all about, I still want them to learn about the world, and you should still, have like this curriculum, but just don't be so rigid about it. Yeah.
And
Mm.
I also like your advice about, of course, you're gonna have times when you need a break, and they can just have some screen time, and don't be too strict on yourself, but try to have weekly goals. You were saying, I thought that was
Yes,
really
or
good.
even sometimes monthly. Like if it rolls over, if you did two new grammar skills this month, that's better than the zero that you were gonna do. So I'm like, don't be so hard on yourself, because some grammar things do take longer to absorb than others. Like learning I am is a really simple one, and you're gonna fly through that one. But learning like like reasoning, we've been learning, or I should do something, or things like this you might need to spend more time on. So maybe you're not slacking as much as you think you are. Um, I like my one must tip. I have a little notebook that I keep on me because now I ride a bike, so I have a fanny pack, and I like this little tiny notebook, and I write things down that we could use, like kind of like crosswalk, construction, and some sentences about what we might see out in the world and things like this. And it's kind of like bringing the labels with you. So kind of if I'm stuck and we're out at the grocery store and I don't know what to say, I can kind of go to the grocery store page and be like, oh, the cashier is ringing up the groceries, and say a sentence like this. Which, you're so busy as a mom, you don't think about it. In English, you do, but not in your foreign language. You're like, how do I say that again? I don't remember. I'm going to mess it up. And I don't want their Japanese to be flawed, so to say. So I always like have this little cheat sheet with me. So yeah, I think that's a great tip. Just write down little notes to yourself on something. I don't use my phone just because I don't like my kids to like when you pick up your phone and even though you're looking for notes for them and you disengage and they're like, oh, we're tech time? Can I have my tablet? And it's like, oh no, I just wanted to look at the one sentence or the one word. So if you pick up a notebook and you just look, they're like, you're still engaged. You're still there with them. Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I was doing when I was learning kanji in Japan was to take those notebooks around, and whenever I saw kanji, I would write it down, and then in my Japanese class, I would be like, "What is that? I keep seeing that." And then
I like that. I might have to do that.
Yeah, you talk about SRS, and so the kanji I kept seeing. If I asked my teacher what is it, and then I saw it again, it would be repetitive learning and I would get it easier. And I think
Yes.
you can do that with kids too and
Mm-hmm.
get them to write what kanji they see because kids love drawing and writing,
Yeah.
right?
Actually, that's really good because we're starting kanji this year with Jason. So we already have our poster in the bathroom. We talked about captive reading with Adam, I'm sure. But the Japanese people love putting everything in the bathroom for their kids to look at. Because when you're pooping, you got a captive audience, okay? So they're like, I'm just sitting here, and boom, you got your kanji chart. You might as well go ahead and review them. So I love that idea. So we have our chart already, and he can already identify more than half of them. And for first grade, he'll be started next year. So yeah, when we're out and about, we've been starting to point them out. But I like this idea more. I'll give him a notebook when he goes out, so he can start drawing
It's
them.
fun. And then I think like I totally get your idea about not wanting to get out your phone because kids love screens. Of course, we all love screens and it's so easy to get distracted. But one thing that I do even now is when I hear people making announcements and I want to learn how to say that so politely, I'll make a recording of it and then I'll play
Ah,
it back so I can practice it because
no, that's really good. I'm not
polite
anti-phone.
Japanese
Trust me, I'm young, so
polite
I always have
Japanese
my
is
phone.
rough. Yeah.
You guys, I'm not anti-screen time
No,
or
no.
anti-phone.
Yeah.
I always look at her. I always have my phone with me, and I do pull it out. But I'm just saying, like, if your kid is that kid that when they see the phone, they're like game, then it might be something that you not. But my kids can like if it's for something like this, we're recording and things like this, then that's good. But if you're sitting down on the floor and we're playing and we wanted no screen time or something like this, the notebook is good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like those ideas. I will use.
Yeah. I think using technology in, productive ways like that. And
Oh
and
yes,
kids
as
are
I tell
so
people, download that dictionary app. If you don't know something, boom, dictionary app. I tell my son all the time. I put one on his tablet and I told him, I was like, look, this is the dictionary app. If you don't know how to say something, you can type it in. And he really likes the find the kanji part. You can put in the radicals and you kind of build the kanji until we find it. And we'll do that. We're sitting in the supermarket. I got nowhere to be. Building this kanji and this, oh, it was peach. For that, it was the kanji's peach. This must be peach flavored, Jason. Yeah, but like you said, we're learning on a bigger scale, like how to fend for yourself than just the kanji peach too. Yeah.
no, that's great. And I think it's magic about living in a foreign country where you're surrounded by another culture and another language to
And our tongues
explore,
don't limit it.
right?
Yeah, we're only here
Yeah.
for 3 years, so we gotta make the most of it before we're
Well,
back in America.
it seems like you are making the most of it. So great job. And thank you so much for sharing all your motivation and all your tips and everything with everybody on YouTube. You're doing a great job.
Oh,
We've
thank you.
we've got 5 more minutes. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you'd like to talk about?
No, I think we hit it, label your house, have fun with your kids. Um, we were talking about resources, I guess. Oh, and I'll help shout out this company. But when I first started, I had to try really hard to find mom words, you know. And so, but now this company, Talkbox.mom, they have already put all the mom words in this book. Their subscription is a little expensive for me, but I did buy the book and I like it because it has words like "don't hit your brother" and "don't climb backwards on the slide." You need to take a nap, change your diaper. And I had to work really hard to find those words when I was first learning Japanese with my kids. And now it's just for Spanish, we got it easy. We can just, it says, carry me, put on a seatbelt. Those are all the words you need to just start using right here and make labels out of it and use right from day one. Yeah.
That's a great resource. I wonder if they have that in Japanese because
No,
that was
they have it in all languages.
that was something my kids' teachers at preschool would sometimes comment on, that my kids didn't understand mom Japanese
Yeah,
because
commands. You're not using
I didn't
commands.
speak Japanese to them at home. So their experience with Japanese was only at school and outside the home. But there, of course, is language at home that most moms would be speaking with their kids. So, yeah, that's really interesting. I never thought about that. It's nice that there's that resource now. Oh no, Tiara, you're frozen again. I hope you're coming back. Molly says, I really learned a lot of ideas my students can use. Thank you. Thank you, Molly. It's great to have
Yeah.
a teacher listening and commenting. Tiara, you're back. Okay, good. You froze for a second there.
It did.
Yeah. So 3 more minutes. Now, we mentioned briefly SRS. Can you explain that? Because you've got a great video on it.
Yes. So SRS is a lot of smart. I always condense my videos down to layman's terms because a lot of smart people have already made tons of videos about the specifics. So if you want that, look it up. But basically, um, reminding yourself of a vocabulary word at the right amount of time. So moving vocabulary words from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. And more importantly for us, it's kind of like these things that you're seeing, kanji, or that you're hearing, the mom language, that you are you reading from the book, that you change it into speaking language. Because just because you read something and you know it, it's still in the back of your mind. If you hear it again, you know what it means. But how can we convert that to something I can actually be speaking and saying with my kid? So there are apps like Enki that do the SRS with you. I use Wanikani for kanji. That's basically a SRS to keep reminding you of the kanji enough times at the right moment, like 2 days later or 1 month later, so that you don't forget it. So you can always use it with your kids when you're using these labels and you're repeating yourself and saying it again. You're not just dropping the phrase on them the one day and then they never hear it again. You need to be using the phrases all week and next week, again, or revisit your calendar. So like if you did, like we did hiking words this week, and we're gonna go hiking next week. We did that bakery thing last week. So maybe the beginning of next month, maybe we go to the bakery again and use some of those terms so that we don't forget the different kind of breads and how to use it and rolling and mixing and things like this. So just making sure that you're not just touching it and walking away. You need to be taking it with you.
That's awesome. Great advice. So, are you like looking at a calendar and planning activities and then like moving back from the activity and saying, okay, for the week before, we're going to start planning that vocabulary then? How do you plan it?
I wish I was so organized. No, I do. I have these notebooks. So I will pick books, and then when I've decided on actually we just read books, right? We read books, and then I will find one that either the kids spark interest, like they're like, "Oh, mommy, tell me more." They were actually engaged in it. They were like, "Oh," or I know that I can actually follow through, like make a activity around it. Um, and then I will go from there. And we have a lot of library books, so it's kind of like a good reminder, like right before it's time to return the library book, to read it again and kind of revisit the topic. Or if we turn it back in and we go to the library and get new books, the next time I'll usually be going through the shelf and see the same book again and be like, oh, we should read this one again, and kind of refresh ourselves on what we did there. So it's kind of like real loose, loose, but I do my best.
No, that's awesome. I love it. And thank you so much for all the great work you're doing and for sharing all your knowledge and your ups and downs. I think that's so helpful to monolingual parents who are trying to raise bilingual, multilingual kids. And thank you for all the inspiration. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. This is great. Yeah, sorry about the beginning, but we got it all in.
We got it all in. No problem. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Tomorrow, we have a talk at 5 p.m. with Nadia McKechnie. She is running vegan websites for vegan in Japan. So please join us again. Thanks, everyone. Take care and go be curious, right?
Yes.
All right. Take care. Bye.